Hello and welcome back to Gooner Gathering. My name is Posh Bertie, the poshest man in all of sports entertainment. And joining me as always, his microphone is working now. It's Gooner Gathering's founding father. It's Gooner Lee Meads. How are you today, sir?
Hello, everybody. I am fine, apart from the fact that I realise the Twitter feed's not working. But apart from that, everything is going really well. It's like a typical Gooner Gathering stream. I was going to give you a big build-up and everything. The man who's guaranteed to flip your chart at any stage. But I'm doing very well, Bertie. Thank you very much indeed. And we're also joined by Spencer. How are you, sir?
Doing well. The weather's cold here in America. It's a typical Monday, and just driving for the weekend. Happy to talk about 3-point as opposed to negative results that we've had recently. But glad to be here.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say we had a little bit of a blip before the break, but it's fair to say, we go into a game against Crystal Palace where I think nothing but a win would have been acceptable, really. I think that's pretty much what we said on the preview, wasn't it, Posh?
Yeah, absolutely. Even if it was a draw, it would have been meltdown central for us. It had to be 3 points and it had to be convincing as well. And lo and behold, 5-0 victory. Whilst there are some factors that might make people think, hang on, let's not get too carried away just yet. I am pleased that we won. I'm pleased we got the essential 3 points that we needed to pick up.
Absolutely. Well, let's go through the team lineup because my broadcast partner decided he wanted to put Gabriel at left back. Probably should have put him at centre forward. Would you like to go through the team?
Absolutely. We had David Raya in goal, Ben Orange right back, who now looks a bit like Brother Love nowadays with his tan. Saliba and Gabriel at centre back, although Gabriel should have really been up front. We've had the wrong Gabriel as striker all this time. Zinchenko at left back, who I actually think had a decent game. Rice in midfield. Havertz, him, and Odegaard in midfield as well. We'll get to Declan Rice in a minute because there are some concerns. Saka, Trossard, and Jesus as the front three. On the bench, Ramsdale, Cedric, Walters, Kivior, Jorginho, Smith Rowe on the bench yet again. Nelson, Martinelli, and Edward Nketiah.
Thank you very much indeed. Let me remove that. I think what we'll do, Posh, because I've kind of got a format together. I also have a little bit of news that's broken to me recently about Declan Rice, but we'll get to that, and it's actually positive news. But my feeling, actually, it's our Spencer's thoughts on the starting lineup because Bertie's already jumped on one. Of course, Smith Rowe didn't make a start. I think some people really wanted him to start. Some people thought he might want to start, especially after some stuff that was come out of the press conferences. What say you about today, Saturday's starting lineup?
The lineup is about what I expected, honestly, just given the news that came out of Dubai that Timber's looking good and that I think Smith Rowe is looking. I expected about a 30-minute cameo from Smith Rowe. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens going, I think 9 days from now at Nottingham Forest to see whether he gets to start there or not. But for him, the biggest thing and the biggest milestone for Smith Rowe is just staying healthy, because he's such a big impact player when he plays out there. His vision, his movement, the way he sees the ball, the way he sees the field himself. He's almost like a mini field general, kind of like an Odegaard out there. And he's a very important piece. And if he can stay healthy, it will almost feel like a new signing in January. And just think about the subs we brought on there with Martinelli and Smith Rowe. It's really exciting to bring those two guys on, So, but I thought the lineup was okay. Given Tomiyasu's away at the Asia Cup, Partey's not available. It's kind of about what I expected. So.
I think the surprise for me was Martinelli, who apparently wasn't quite ready. Apparently picked up a little bit of a knock prior to the match. So Trossard gets a go at centre forward, which was, it's a masterstroke. Obviously, it's one that a lot of people have been calling for quite a while. maybe a better option to the one I might have chosen. What do you think, Bosh?
I think Martinelli, before the 2 goals he scored, was out of form. I think a lot of our front three were out of form, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But it's good to see Trossard on. Usually, I've argued he's a better coming off the bench as an impact player. But there were some arguments he could have started up front because that's where he's been best positioned this season. But he had a decent game. It was good to see him back. And I know who you're referencing, by the way, Lee. I think you're going to go with Reece Nelson. Yeah, probably would have seen him as well. But yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I was kind of referencing the kind of tongue-in-cheek Havertz at number 9 theory.
Or Nketiah. Yeah.
But I'm going to get to them in a minute, and maybe you'd be slightly surprised on somewhat of my take of what I've got to say on some of this. So let's say good evening to Sam Wilson, who's had a bit of a day of it by the looks of it. I know how he feels, but they've already had one shout out today on one Cultaholic stream. So why not give our friends at Wrestle Dogs a big old shout out over there as well? My good friend Andrew Hodgkinson gave our friends a little bit of a shout out over there. So I would imagine they would have had quite a good night.
And I'm very pleased that he did give the shout out, because if he forgot, I would have gone up to Newcastle. I would have given him a big slap on his chrome dome. And lucky he avoided that.
Okay.
I love you, Andrew, if you're watching.
Yeah, I think he might still be live, actually. But yeah, he's a man of his word, isn't he? I told him on the text that he's a good egg. Let's say good evening to BX as well, who's joined us once again. Hello, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's good to have you all there. Right, I think one thing I think we'll probably all agree with is that Arsenal really needed to have a brisk start to the match, because I think the longer it would have been a stalemate, it may have got a little bit edgy amongst the crowd. And I think it didn't take them very long for the first goal to come about. The way it was scored was a little bit unusual, I felt. Who'd have thought Declan Rice would go and take a corner? Was a good one. Found Gabriel, literally easy. It managed to jump, and the defender was nowhere. Some might argue the goal shouldn't have counted because he was leaning on them. But what say you guys? I thought it was a pretty decent goal, and it's a contact sport, so I thought it was a good goal.
Yeah, it's a good goal. The Declan Rice taking the corner is interesting because of bringing the 6 up to take the corner. That does leave you a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Potentially light if there's a quick counterattack. But, I mean, his service of the ball was excellent. Gabriel did excellent to get away from Richards and put it in the back of the net, not once but twice.
Richards is your fellow countryman as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Didn't know that.
Center backs aren't really our forte in America. Right now it's the midfielders with Musa and guys like that. But yeah, I thought it was an excellent set piece. And that, hey, look, you're breaking down a low block, right? Because that's the issue we have with some of these teams. That's another way to break the low block down. Score on your set pieces. So create a crisis for them to have to react.
Your thoughts, Percy?
Yeah, of course, arguments that the goal shouldn't have been counted. Quite ironic, really, as I remember back in the Newcastle game, Arsenal fans were adamant that the goal that we conceded didn't count because it was a foul on Gabriel.
Yeah,
the same goal that we scored, the same type of situation happened, and now our fans are going, "There's nothing wrong with that. It's a goal. Surely the refs did a good job for once."
Well,
All I'm going to say
didn't go out of play, mate.
If it was given against Newcastle, if it was given against us for Newcastle back in November, it should be given for this game. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm not talking about that other game. I was just talking about today, the Saturday's game.
Yes, it's the situation was similar, but it was given and it should have been given. Yes. And I'm pleased that Gabriel Magalhaes once again he's very good on his set pieces, whenever it's a free kick. against Liverpool, or a corner most of the time. Declan Rice can take corners. Who'd have thunk it? He can do it all, can Deckers. And looks like we were practicing our set pieces in Dubai. From what I've
Apparently
heard.
so. Apparently so. I heard this off Jonathan Pierce on the Match of the Day commentary. A chap called Nicholas Jova, apparently, is the yeah, exactly. So I know you can't wait to do this. So and I know you're going to want to jump on Havertz's back at any opportunity. And I wanted to make sure I had a proper good look. And I've had a look at some footage, and I've had a look at it back. And some might say he was, I think you said on Fran's chat that he wasn't that great, and Odegaard disappeared. I think was your wording. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, you could say that about a lot of our games this season. Even in a 5-0 win, Havertz was not good. Odegaard has had a quiet game again. What more can you say? And I know are you about to get your Microsoft Excel spreadsheet out and tell me how much runs in behind and how much flick-ons Havertz has received? And
no, actually, no, because that's not my style. You know me better than that, sir. You really do. I'm not going to talk about the words of filthy or anything like that because I don't understand it. It's not my forte. What I like to talk about is what I see in front of me in terms of build up and what I see with my eyes. I want to talk about the little bit of play that kind of forced the second goal first. There's two bits I want to talk about. Havertz got involved with the play with Saka, and Ben White was on the overlap. Cross came in. Good bit of defending by Eze, who I think he was a very, very frustrated man because he's a good player, Eze, at Crystal Palace. It didn't really get as involved as he'd probably want to. However, he got involved in blocking the corner, blocking the cross from White, which ended up being the goal number 2. I'll finish off what I've got to say, then I'll throw it to either one of you. Saka took this corner. Now it was kind of headed across towards Havertz. Actually, I've got my little bit of play kind of wrong. I'll carry on. Don't worry. Kind of towards Havertz. It came off Jefferson Lerma, and he nearly hit his own bar. I think kind of under pressure from Havertz being there. Your thoughts on that?
You mentioned Eze. I hoped #FreeEze would trend on Twitter because I feel sorry for him. He's a big fish in a small pond, isn't he? That team.
I agree.
It's like they're in absolute turmoil at the moment. But it's something I don't remember. The pressure from Havertz. We were pressing a lot. I know that a lot of our players were pressing, which it's good. It's the kind of football I like to see. Us going at it, making other teams under pressure. But yeah, a lot of our players were doing that. Havertz was one of them. So credit to him for that. But overall, I just much like John Cena, you couldn't see him. You couldn't see Odegaard either.
Okay. I'm going to give Spencer the next one because it's a really good chance for Crystal Palace here. And Arsenal sort of getting back to some old bad habits, if you like. And it was part of the play where we're kind of passing it around in our defence. We're trying to make a bit of space. Eventually, Saliba does the pass back to Raya. Clears it first time. He didn't mess about with it. But that clearance went straight to the foresaid Lerma. Took one touch, had a really good shot at it. But the difference is that Raya had an excellent save here.
Yeah, I'm going to give. So I mean, it's. So how do I say this? I don't want to trash Raya on it. It was kind of a rush clearance, and the Palace player got it. And credit to Raya to be awake, and I made a mistake, a quick reaction. playing out the back is one of those high risk, high reward type actions, and especially some of the dangerous passing. When you played, like you were told never pass the ball across your 18-yard line box, right? That was like, don't do this. But for some reason, at the highest level, it's like, and now granted, these are some of the best footballers in the world. So we're talking about a talent that they practice this daily, and 6-year-old kids, you go for it, right? But it's just one of those things, and I know why you do it, because you want to drag in the defense and get them out of their zone so you can potentially hit them on some space. But yeah, it was a very squirrely moment, but well saved by Rhea. Should it have happened? No, but credit to him to not making it turning into a disaster, because at 2-1 potentially changes. I think it was 1-0 at that time. I don't think
It
it
was
was
1-0. Yeah, it could have
changed the whole game.
Yeah.
So it's one of those high risk, high rewards. I'm not a big fan of playing out the back like that, but that's the way modern football is nowadays. So
yeah, I'm just wondering what alarm might have been my end. Do you want to just take the fault just for a minute, Posh, if you don't mind? Because I might have something I've got to deal with here. Just bear with me a minute. I will be right back.
No worries.
Well,
I'll give my thoughts on the whole what we just mentioned. Yeah,
you can go into goal too if you want, mate. I'll be right back.
I'll go in on that in a minute. Yeah, I'm no fan of playing out from the back either. There have been many times that we've done it, and it's made me feel a little nervous, particularly when Aaron Ramsdale does it. But I thought Raya reacted well. To save the shot, and I actually thought overall Raya had a very good game for us. We'll get to the third goal in a minute. We will get to that because I love that. But yeah, a good pair of hands from Raya to deny Lerma from that instant shot there. As Lee was saying, we'll get to goal 2. Another corner. This time it was Saka who took the corner rather than Rice. Declan Rice's corner came from one side. Saka's corner came from the other. Corner comes in from Saka. Lo and behold, I know it was credited as an own goal from Dean Henderson, but it was Gabriel Magalhaes once again, near post, back post, I should say. Header away, 2-0. Spencer, don't you agree with me that we've been playing the wrong Gabriel up front all this time?
It's funny, because I know, like, Gabriel Jesus, I thought he had an interesting game as far as his finishing. He was offsides a lot of times on Saturday, but yeah, Gabriel, he's got a knack for finding those, and that's all part of it, man. Like, yeah, it's you're supposed to rely on goals from your strikers and your wingers and your midfielders, but man, if you could put your set pieces away, it just makes life so much easier. So it does appear that they did do some work in Dubai. That, look, we went through a 5-6 game stretch where we barely scored any goals. We couldn't get anything done. Put them in some warm weather. I don't know, give them a different perspective, took them out of their funk and got them re-energized and redressed. And is this the result? Maybe we kick on. Who knows what happens next week? But it was really, I mean, at this point, we were screaming for, we could have taken an own goal at this point, right? We would have taken whatever we could to get the ball in the back of the net. And if Gabriel's the guy that does it, which I don't know if you guys noticed, it looked like he played a lot more progressive, almost kind of like Stones did for City last year. I don't know if you noticed how more progressively up the pitch he was during the game, but there's something I noticed when I was rewatching it today.
One thing, sorry about the interruption, my end. I think there might have been a car alarm going off outside. One thing I noticed when you have Gabriel playing, and he's very often playing next to Zinchenko. When Zinchenko goes and does his wandering off kind of thing, and he did this in this match, it does appear like Gabriel often ends up in almost an orthodox left side left back position, which is kind of what Posh was referring to on our preview show, and being that Kiviar often gets caught out at the left back position, I think what you wanted to do was have the experienced player on the left and try and keep everything nice and solid. But of course, with Zinchenko coming in, that kept that quiet as well. By the way, I didn't know he was ready to play. But anyway, with him doing his thing, and on the highlights that I've seen Zinchenko playing more right side than anything else. But then again, when you're against,
I thought he played quite well. I know he went inverted, but he didn't cause any problems.
Yeah.
So,
what I was going to say is when you're playing against a side like Palace, who quite often set up quite defensively, they had the 3 centre halves, wing backs, and there is that space for him to do his wandering off thing and add to our numbers in the midfield, and I think that's what he done here. So I will definitely keep an eye on what you said about Gabriel and comparing him to Stones there. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. Yes.
So I do think that's situational based on the team. So I was looking at the positioning from the last 3 games before the break, and Kivior was not inverting as much, but when Zinchenko plays, we do a massive amount of inversion. So I think it depends on who plays that left back position, depends on how much inversion actually truly happens within the game. So it's just something I've been kind of noticing. See if he is changing something tactically with the back line. I also noticed that Jesus was more central this game and not as much hold-up play. So that's also something that I've been kind of screaming for, because if you're going to invert a left back, there's no reason to have the striker do hold-up play. You already have that extra man in the midfield. Keep him up centrally, break him down by the wings. So something I noticed.
And to go on to Jesus, that's my next point. As we go in to start talking about the second half, I thought as the match went on, from what I saw, it seemed like he was getting more and more frustrated. He was trying to get involved in the play. He did end up a little bit further back and trying to get involved in the play. One bit of play I thought was quite an interesting, which led to a corner. My good mate and number 29, Mr. Havertz, involved on the halfway line, bringing down difficult ball, finding Zinchenko. Then Odegaard and Jesus had a shot which turned to a corner. Following that, it was a deep corner. Found Havertz on the far post who had hit it across the goal. And then, if I get it right, Jesus passed it to Zinchenko, set up Saka. The shot got deflected. And this is the moment where Jesus, I think, really embarrassed himself, because he absolutely fell to the ground. Your thoughts on that? This sort of led to the next bit of play, which ended up with the goal, but we'll sort of stop it there. I know that was quite long-winded how I described. There's lots of people involved in that play, but so basically the bit when you've got Havertz heading it across, Jesus involved, Zinchenko setting up Saka with a shot, and then with the deflection, Jesus took a bit of a nosedive.
So I thought Jesus, I mean, if he felt frustrated, how do you think I felt while watching it? For the game that
the second half absolutely.
But when he was caught offside, he was caught offside for most of the first half, which really frustrated me. I know, but I didn't see that particular mistake he made because I was going to Ebbsfleet. But you were talking about Jesus. I'm giving my input on what I saw from Jesus, and all I saw was offside after offside after offside, and terrible acting, which he needs to cut out of his game altogether. Maybe he should have taken over from Lee Meadows in the West End. Maybe all that acting.
No, I was singing, sir. I wasn't acting. I can't act really.
Well, listen, I think when I was in the chat on Fran's video and they were doing player ratings, I left after they were rating Saka because I had to go to bed because it was very late. But if we did player ratings for Jesus, I would have given him a 3 or a 2 because that's how frustrated he made me with all the offsides. And it was, again, not his best game, really, in my opinion. That's what I have to say on Gabby Jesus. Jesus is terrible at selling. He's talking like he's a wrestler. Selling anything to the refs. That they won't give him next to nothing because of it. So if he's terrible at selling, is he Arsenal's equivalent of the late Road Warrior Hawk?
Oh, wow.
Although yeah.
Fair enough. Well, So following that little bit of play and the VAR check, which
Can I follow up to that Road Warrior Hawk comment? Every time when I saw him play against Palace, it was more like the Legion of Gloom. Anyway, carry on.
What a rush! Anyway, thank you very much, BX, for that comment. So following that bit of play, Palace did get up the other end of the field. Got a corner which didn't really enter much. I want to compliment our goalkeeper again, Raya here, who did excellently in this game, I felt. So the ball eventually came to Will Hughes. That cross, it was more of a hopeful cross than anything else. Raya pretty much unchallenged, rose above everyone, got that ball nice and secure, couple of steps up, and all of a sudden, with that overhead throw, did find Gabby Jesus, funny enough. And all of a sudden, we've got a one-on-one situation, Klein and Trossard. Now, Jesus, to his credit, managed to find the nice diagonal pass there, and Trossard finding some form again. That was his first goal since 11th of November. What a way to celebrate his anniversary at the club. This was a beautiful goal. I know you would have enjoyed this, mate.
And that goal in November was the Burnley game, if I remember. Might have been.
I think you're probably right.
Where he nearly injured himself running into the goal. Yeah, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that third goal. That actually, Spencer, you can go. You can speak about it first because I went first last.
It sets up so beautifully too. When you rewatch it back, and it's just really communication between the goalkeeper and the two forward line, I guess, members of Trossard and Jesus. Raya gets the ball, and just it's quick play. And it's creating, getting them on a counterattack, getting them kind of out of position. And props to Trossard, because I think the biggest issue I think a lot of our players have had with finishing recently has been more of the finishing aspects and the confidence and more just kind of, I want to say, there's a word I'm looking for, trusting their talents, right? Trossard took his time, made a player miss, and then put the ball in the back of the net. It was calm, cool, and collective. Massive goal from open play. It's something we've been screaming for. I mean, you could call it a set piece goal to an extent, I guess, but I consider it an open play goal because the play still had to develop. But it's what we've been screaming for, and they've had the talent. The kids have had the guys have had the talent, and it was excellent. It was excellent by Trossard. So he needed it. It came at a good time too.
BX Gunner says that was pure poetry in motion. Honestly, I have no more words to describe that distribution from David Raya. Honestly,
I know what you just did.
I want to give huge credit to Raya. When people, I don't want people speaking to me saying that Aaron Ramsdale's distribution is better than Raya's. I'm just going to show you that third goal, sorry.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely fantastic. Trossard, lovely work as well, getting around the box, and Jesus with the assist, I believe. So I'll give credit to him for that.
Yes.
And a lovely finish from Trossard. But the goal itself was set up by David Raya. Honestly, that distribution from him was so beautiful. You might as well call it Jennifer Louise. It was very good distribution from David Raya. And
it's an in reference from me here.
She still owes me a date, by the way, back in 2021. But yeah, I think
you have to have a word when you see her.
That's the whole point. David Raya, brilliant distribution, and I thought we had a fantastic game overall. And I don't think we'll be seeing Ramsdale in the first team anytime soon. Sorry to the apologists out there.
Yeah, I agree. And
even though he did have a good game against Liverpool.
Yes, but we both said that, didn't we? We both said that on the preview. 7th goal of the season for Trossard. Now, bear in mind, he doesn't get an awful lot of game time. A lot of his time has been cameos as substitute. I thought he did have a pretty decent game. It's all about getting confidence back, isn't it? And I think we'll talk more about confidence in a minute and players who really needed it. Just want a quick pause and say about Eze again, because he did test Raya with his free kick. It wasn't that far out the box, but it was from outside the box. on the left-hand side of the area, up and over, and forced Raya to sort of both hands over the bar, which was a nice strike. I think it was a little bit for the cameras, perhaps, but decent save nonetheless.
Once again, very good from Raya. Had a lot of action, didn't he? Really, despite winning 5-0. But as God bless him. I keep saying he's the only Crystal Palace player that tried in that team. I mean, Palace are in a bit of turmoil at the moment. You saw the fans protesting during the game, and big shout out to, you remember my uncle Ross, who appeared on this channel. He's a Crystal Palace fan, and unlucky, mate. And but look, Eze would have been a better signing than Havertz. You know, he's
a great player. I said that a bit right on the get go. Yeah. The thing is, you have to play extra tax on him because he's English.
Well, but listen,
and that's transfer fees in general, by the way, at the moment. You'll find that the lack of movement is astonishing. At this stage of the transfer window, there's literally hardly anything going on. I think FFP have killed it.
And I think everybody. I think it's killed everybody, to be honest with you. I think given the investigations to Forest and Everton and Everton's point deduction, I think most of these teams are gun shy until they actually know exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. And also some of the people that want to move, they're at teams that are fighting relegation. So like Bournemouth, for example, you're not going to give up Solanke. Where are you going to get your goals from, right? Yeah. Brentford's not getting rid of Tony. I think they're 15th. So So, but it's definitely,
I have to say, hindsight, Havertz has saved our midfield in Partey's absence. You spelt Declan Rice wrong, BX. I think it's Rice who has saved our midfield in Partey's absence, in my opinion. Because I think
I get what he meant, because Rice would have played anyway. What he's saying, covering Partey's position, perhaps.
Yeah, I think back last season we heavily relied on Partey in our midfield, and if he was injured, we looked a bit more slower and we looked lost. Not almost. I say sometimes we look lost. We heavily relied on Jorginho, which can be a bit of a consistency issue sometimes. This season, I think having Declan Rice in our midfield has been an absolute game changer for Partey's absence, and hopefully Rice doesn't get injured. More on that later.
I think I have positive news to give you on that one, but we will see on that. Rice would have been solo in midfield without Havertz. That's a really interesting point. Listen, I know we're not going to convince, and you know, when some people will have an opinion, it's not even. I've really tried. Bertie's not going to change his opinion, and that's fair enough.
Havertz consistently puts in good performances and goals, like he did in December. Then I might change my mind. But so far, he had a bit of a purple patch in December, and fair play to him for that. Yeah. But overall, I just feel like we could have spent our money differently. And you say that Eze would have been expensive; he'd have been cheaper than 65 million in the summer.
I bet he wouldn't have been.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because I know where BX is coming. Me and him have talked offline about this before, and I know where he's coming from on this. If you look at the availability for Havertz, Granit Xhaka's biggest thing was his discipline and his yellow cards and his red cards. We don't have that issue with Havertz. Havertz is a little bit more progressive. I mean, look, Vieira's been out. Smith Rowe can't be available. You know, it's just the people that we've had that could potentially play the 8, to me, and this is my opinion, I think me and BX share the same sentiment. Rice was brought in to play that 8 position. Partey was supposed to play the 6. And I think because Partey's been unavailable, Rice has had to shift back to the 6. And Havertz was a versatility player that could play striker, 8, 10, winger, whatever. And because of our issues with health and players being available, you've just kind of had to crumble up the plans and kind of piecemeal everything. And to be fair, and to be where we are in the league with their injury issues, I think it's still pretty impressive. Now, granted, the goals have dried up, but we got 5 this weekend. We could discuss December, but I understand where he's coming from. So I wanted to explain where I know where he was coming from, and that so a little bit more into it. So,
do you want to catch up on the chat, Bosh?
I will. I'll save one comment till last. BX says, when Xhaka came into the club, he was made to be the enforcer and general, like what Rice is now. I thought Rice would be the upgrade on Xhaka, but turns out with Partey's injury, he's had to kind of replace him in a way. Problem is that Xhaka didn't receive any help. Well, 6 of the 7 seasons, he was not the best, put it that way, and I'm putting that politely. It was his last season where he had his best season in an Arsenal shirt. Good old Luke Chapman's in the chat. John Brady signs new improved contract as manager of Northampton Town with some angry emojis. Are you unhappy about that? Cobbler's boss signs new deal. He's unhappy about a manager at his club. And how you feel, mate, for both my teams. By the way, Luke, can Arsenal sign one of your strikers in a swap deal for Eddie Nketiah? I think Nketiah will shine well with the Cobblers.
It's funny you should mention Eddie, because he's on my next point. Because one thing, sometimes Arteta gets criticism, and you'd be really surprised about this, about not using all his subs and everything. He gets called somewhat arrogant because he's not playing Emil Smith-Rowe. We'll point out that he did take off Havertz on the 69th minute. So he did give Emil Smith-Rowe, yes, I heard you. Emil Smith-Rowe got a good amount of game time. And he probably will end up getting more as it goes on, I think, with the ESR, because he's just coming back from the injury and everything. 20 minutes plus injury time, pretty good going. Let's talk about Declan Rice getting replaced at this stage, 73 minutes. Potential of a hamstring injury, which is a bit of a worry, came off for Jorginho. Trossard was replaced on the same sub with Havertz for Martinelli. We've got 2 other subs to talk about. Gabriel, who the goal scoring defender, apparently was struggling at the end of the first half, and he did take a bit of a kick, and at 3-0 as it was in the last 10 minutes, got replaced for Kivior. Just say what's up to Diggs by the way 7 in the Twitch chat.
It's a Dallas Cowboys reference.
Dallas Cowboys reference. Thank you very much. I wouldn't get that, mate, I'm afraid. And my boy came on the pitch. Nketiah came on for Jesus, whose pinpoint through ball to one Martinelli. Of course, Eddie on the halfway line runs with the ball. Quite a powerful run. Beautiful through pass to Martinelli, who finished like he was Thierry Henry. We hadn't seen finishing like this from Martinelli for ages. Actually, in Saturday's game, he doubled his goal output for the whole season.
Okay, so let me just comprehend all of what you've just said. So
yes.
Martinelli got a goal, and Nketiah got an assist, and Arteta made a substitution before the 75th minute. Grab 2 of each animal and head for the border. The end is nigh. The end is nigh, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And Smith-Rowe came on as well.
He did.
I think when I got in the car to go to Ebbsfleet, I must have been living in a parallel universe, because I don't know what happened there. Listen, the assist from Nketiah was very good, and that ball to Martinelli, it was fantastic. And the finish from Martinelli, it did look a lot like when Henry returned against Leeds and scored that goal in the FA Cup. It was a very familiar goal. Both the 4th and 5th goal were pretty much the same. I thought it was a replay.
Copies.
And thank God for Martinelli finally scoring again, because he needed it. He has been heavily criticised for his poor performances the past few games, and now he has scored 2 goals in the last few minutes. I know that let's not get too carried away. It was against a poor Palace side, but credit where it's due. And only play what's in front of you. Hopefully that can give Martinelli a confidence boost that he needs, especially with some important games coming up in the league.
Absolutely. Let's give the final goal for Spencer to talk about, if you like. Who'd have thought Jorginho getting an assist as well, by the way? This one was slightly different in that it was a longer through ball here, a bit of a big ball, but again, the finish from Martinelli was absolutely identical. It was a nice touch and controlled finish into the far corner.
Yeah, it's just about to say that the space he got to receive that ball too. The Crystal Palace player gave him a good amount of space, which I don't think Martinelli has seen that kind of space. When I say it, on the inside of the goal. So a lot of Martinelli's runs are usually around the outside, right? And he tries to drive in. I mean, it was a beautiful pass by Jorginho. Good awareness by him. You could probably make an argument by that point Crystal Palace may have switched off, but the game hadn't been blown dead, so that was their fault for switching off. Great finish by Martinelli. And you talk about player mentality and player confidence. And I know a lot of people don't really buy into the mental aspect of the game, but just think about your personal life when you're doing something. The stuff's not going right. And then finally something goes right to reaffirm with the talents you have. It's the same thing with footballers. They need social media. They see all the stuff. Martinelli gets those 2 goals. He remembers, his talents. And now we need Saka to break through a little bit, Jesus and Kedia, and get this ball rolling. I mean, they scored 89 goals last year. The talent's there. It's just putting the ball away. And I go back to Odegaard because I know people talk about how poor his game was. For me, with Odegaard, he's there. He's just not taking his chances. He had one early in the game that he took an extra touch, and then it turned into there was nothing there. And it's just like, have some confidence, son. Put the ball in the back of the net. Put it on target. Do something with it. So, look, with Martinelli, we get it. That's 2 more goals from him. That's 4 in the season. Good pass by Nketiah. So not only is Nketiah giving you a goal threat potentially, he's giving you assists. So he's got it. He's got to. That's the thing we need from Eddie, right? So there's a potential. And when I say this, we may not bring in a striker this window. So we need Eddie, Havertz, and Jesus to step up in those positions. And hey, look, I mean, it's the guys we got. They got to fight forward, man. They get paid a decent amount of money. They have the talent. They have the ability. I don't know what else to tell you, Posh. I wish we could get a striker in January. I just don't see it happening, man.
Do you know what? No. Yeah, I'll agree with you. I think everyone wants to see a striker, but the way the window is and the way there's more non-movers than the top 40 chart at the moment. It's just not happening. Is there anything else you want to add on Martinelli's second goal, Posh? Because if not, we'll bring it onto another little bit of a segment.
Other than the fact that if I did watch it live, I'd have probably thought that was a replay because it was pretty much the same goal. So the difference is the different people got an assist. So I've got nothing much to add there other than 5 goals to seal the deal in the last minute. Very good.
Okie dokie. Well, let's just press this and hopefully there we go. We've got a bit of injury news to talk about then. So as we mentioned, Declan Rice was taken off and there's footage going around. You can see him talking. I think it might be to ESR actually, whoever it was, saying, "Oh, it's a hammy." That would be pretty devastating if it is a hammy and he misses. I mean, Liverpool were in 2 games' time, I think. So, I have heard this evening, not too long from us going live this evening, that there's talk that's saying that Rice's injury isn't as serious as we might think, and he might be available for the Forest game. So that might be encouraging. I know last season injuries cost us massively. We spoke about this as well the other day, and Saliba's injury. Well, I'm kind of hopeful, just listening to Arteta's comments about Gabriel, that it was more of a looking after his player at the score at 3-0, thinking there's no point in taking any more risk here, and to give Kivior a few more minutes as well. Probably play at centre half as well, which is probably not a bad idea.
I was saying it's a lot better, much better centre back than he is a left back. I can tell you that now.
Yeah,
so I really hoped that when I heard Declan Rice say the words hammy, he was talking about what types of sandwiches he liked. But listen, I am pleased if the news was true, and Rice isn't it's not a hamstring injury, because that would have been about 4-5 weeks usually, hamstring injuries.
But I might be talking about someone else's injury in a minute.
So Declan Rice, it's actually, I don't want to be all, being out of the FA Cup is a blessing in disguise. I'm not saying that, but it's a good job that we don't play for 10 days with Rice picking up a knock, because it gives him more time to rest and recover. And hopefully he will be back in time for the Liverpool game, especially, or for the Forest game as well. Because if he's not available for the Liverpool game, I'm sorry, I don't want to be like it's already a write-off, but it will be more of a struggle than it is.
It will certainly be very difficult. I agree with you. I agree with you.
And I still think we're still one William Saliba injury away from a capitulation. That I still stand by that. So we're not out of the woods in injuries just yet.
Yeah.
Although with Timber being back, hopefully, who knows?
You've been very optimistic to see Timber coming back into play.
Midfielder 7, Sam Hoskins for Arsenal. If we can swap Sam Hoskins for Kai Havertz, that'd be great. By the way, Luke, I tried to look at see what the score was in the Northampton game, but your game was postponed. So I can't shout out the Cobblers' latest score on air, unfortunately.
Oh, you're gonna break Northampton if you give them Kai Havertz. They can't afford those wages.
It's all right. Give us 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps. We'll be fine. We'll take you off him. But look,
We've gone into non-league latest. Tell us about Ebbsfleet.
Yeah. I don't really want to. Funnily enough, there were rumours of a pitch inspection a few days ago, frozen pitch. I wish our game was postponed. It was against Hartlepool, and it was a 1-0 defeat. Again, It was one of our worst performances all season. Genuinely, the writing's on the wall. It's a low light rather than a highlight. Writing's on the wall for Dennis Kutri, our manager, in my opinion.
He's still there, then.
Sadly, Jeff Stelling wasn't there, as it's Hartlepool. However, the manager of Hartlepool and their new manager is someone I think Premier League fans of a certain vintage might be familiar with, a former striker called Kevin Phillips.
A proper goal scorer he was.
He's the Hartlepool manager, and that was his first game in charge. Couldn't have asked for an easier start, really, let's be honest for them. So they have a new manager, and I think Ebbsfleet need a new manager at this rate. That's my Ebbsfleet low light of the week. I wish the game was postponed. I wish our pitch was frozen.
Sorry, Posh. But you mentioned Kevin Phillips.
Yeah.
Obviously, his strike partner up at Sunderland back in the day was a former Arsenal striker in Niall Quinn. Some, for a certain vintage, might not have known that.
I know who Niall Quinn is. I believe he used to play for Man City.
That's right. He certainly did.
Yeah. Right. So I was talking about Declan Rice's injury. Yeah, I was hoping Declan Rice will be back in time for the Forest game and the Liverpool game as well. I mentioned the Liverpool game. I know Fran shamelessly put in a video, the title race is back on. And I know a lot of Arsenal fans
it's tongue in cheek for her, mate.
First of all, right, we beat a completely in turmoil Palace side 5-0. And if we beat Forest and we beat Liverpool, then we can have conversations about our title challenge being back on. But at the moment, it's only with all due respect to Palace, I've been very mean to them today, and I don't mean that in maliciously at all. I've got a friend, Ryan Brown, shout out to him, who supports Crystal Palace, and he said to me, "You did us a favour so we could get rid of Roy, so thank you very much."
Well, don't leave
And
me
yes,
this way.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the Whiting's on the wall for Roy Hodgson.
Poor old boy.
Be
He
careful
needs
what
to
you wish
relax,
for.
put his
though.
feet up,
All I'll
retire,
say.
have a cup of tea.
I like Roy a lot. Bless him.
I liked him when he was Liverpool manager because that was hilarious.
Moving on to Liverpool, just want to bring up Mo Salah. Just to know, is that they're on the horizon, and this evening Mo Salah's agent is saying, this is what they're saying, that his hamstring injury may be more serious than they anticipated, and they're anticipating him being out for 21 to 28 days.
Yeah.
Now, would that take him past the Arsenal fixture, or do you
Yes.
think they're just playing a little bluffing game at us?
So what I read, Lee, I read that it said that he was headed back to London, or excuse me, back to England to get advanced medical care for the injury, and then they were going to send him back to finish up AFCON.
Right.
That's what I read, which to me tells me, is it really serious? Because if it's really serious, you would probably shut it completely down, right? But
Yep.
I mean, again, for Mo Salah, AFCON might be very important. You know, obviously when they went out in the World Cup, he got very upset visibly about it. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, he's their goals. I mean, obviously Jota's really good, and Nunez, and they're kicking on a little bit with Luis Diaz and stuff, and they have options there. But they're in first place because of Mo Salah. Let's not kid ourselves there. 13 goals, I think, in 18 games is just amazing what he's been able to do there. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to have that discussion. What's a bigger loss? Declan Rice for Arsenal or Mo Salah for Liverpool? And I think you
Declan
might.
Rice.
So if you pivot that to, how about this one? I'll propose this question for you. If Mo Salah is out for a long time, are they still winning the title over Man City? That's my counter argument to that. You know, so for us, obviously, Declan Rice being out would be devastating, especially with Partey not being there. Or listen, I'm not ignoring that, but they're two really big losses, and it could blow the title race wide open. You know, in the favor of Man City potentially. So
We've got Haaland coming back as well as Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah,
De Bruyne is already back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He came back as substitute
Yeah.
against Newcastle last game. Now Haaland apparently is is coming back to full training apparently. So we'll see how things develop with them. Yeah, I guess a really good argument. I mean, I think. I mean, Posh, you said you're not going to get carried away over a 5-0 win against
We've
Crystal
been there
Palace.
before.
The opponents that we were up against yesterday, Saturday, Liverpool, similar sort of response. They, in fact, identical scoreline, I think, to what we had up when we played Bournemouth.
Yep.
They
at their stadium as well.
Exactly. So you can only beat what's in front of you at that time. It certainly does bring into focus how important the Liverpool game is. I completely agree with you there. Spencer.
And Lee, let's not forget Crystal Palace tied City at the Etihad earlier this year too. So every game is different. I mean, if you really want to go back to where we were a week ago, we were crying out for a result like this, and we really got it. And we got it in multiple ways. And I think, is it not perfect? Sure. But let's see what happens against Forest, right? We got the response we wanted. It looks as if things are headed potentially in the right direction, but the players have to keep trucking along and doing their part, So it is going to be fascinating time, shall we say, especially all the way up to February when that Liverpool game. Hopefully we can get Rice back. And I'll be honest with you, even if Rice can play half that game for us and say come on as a sub in the second half and Jorginho does a business in the first, I'll take that. I mean, I'd love to have him there I would love. I'll personally set him out the Forest game if there's really an injury, and then bring him back at the Liverpool game if he's good to go. You know, I mean, the Forest game's important, but my God, losing Declan Rice, like we remember Partey's reforced back in the injury. Let's not have let's not lose him for the rest of the year being short-sighted too.
It's interesting that you bring on Forest, because I want to just make sure that we won't take them lightly as well, because they gave us a heck of a game week 1.
They're quite good at home.
Yeah, where at one point we looked like we could be comfortable, and all of a sudden we're scrapping to get the 2-1 win. And talking of Forest, and I want to just bring up Ivan Toney, because yes, he's now not a banned word in the Gooner Gathering law, because he's now fit and available, and it's probably worth talking about, because it took him all of 20 minutes to get involved in the controversy again. I've got to say, he would have been chomping at the bit to get out there, and he's up to his normal shenanigans. I've got to say, it's finding an edge and trying to find a little bending of the rules. The placement of the free kick, if you're not familiar what I'm talking about.
Okay, so the past few minutes, everyone has made points differently about Liverpool game and everything, and Ivan Toney. I've got a lot of things to say on these subjects. So, yeah.
Have I moved on?
Toney, it was a very good goal from the free kick. I know was there controversy surrounding the positioning, because I didn't really notice anything.
So what happened? Just to clear it all up. The referee's positioned the ball. The foam's gone down. Tony's moved the ball. He's moved the foam. Then he's managed to hit that side foot shot, really, that kind of avoided everyone to go in the net. Some would argue it's quite clever, because the referee didn't spot it either, and the Forest defenders didn't spot it, and the manager did.
Luke, don't be greedy. I know Saka's been in a bad run of form as of late, but we're not letting him go to Northampton Town. I will give you either Kai Havertz or Eddie Nketiah for £2.50.
You can do that on FIFA. Go ahead and move him on FIFA.
But so again, it's something I didn't notice, but from what I saw firsthand, I thought it was a quality free kick, quality finish from Ivan Toney, and at the moment, by the end of February, he's probably going to outscore our entire front three if he doesn't sign for us. Because our front three haven't scored much goals. Tony's going to probably be on course for doing so if he continues to get this run of form, and he was a difference maker to Brentford. Forest, under the management of Nuno, they've not done that bad. We cannot take them lightly, especially at the City ground, because they do have a very good home record, and it's going to be under the floodlights on a cold night in Nottingham. So it'll be a very physical, tough game. We're going to need a bit of Declan Rice muscle for that. Hopefully he will be back in time. Yeah. I'll be busy conferencing in San Francisco, so I won't be keeping an eye on that game. Bit of a break from football by then. In terms of the Liverpool game, people are saying, Salah's not going to be there for Liverpool. Doesn't make a difference, in my opinion. Does anyone remember an FA Cup game this month? No Salah, no Van Dijk, no Tsimikas, no Endo, no Robertson. I mean, they had half their team missing almost. And we wasted all our chances. Liverpool took the advantage of that and won. So
no fourth round
at our ground.
Yeah, no fourth round. I said
no fourth round, but fourth round for Maidstone though.
That's irrelevant.
Liverpool, as an Ebbsfleet fan, it makes them seething. Our rivals. No, Liverpool have something that we don't have, and that's attacking squad depth with Luis Diaz, Jota, even Nunes after Bournemouth. So they've got depth going forward, which is something that and Gakpo as well. Let's not forget, something that we don't have. So I think they can cope without Salah, especially if they have Van Dijk back in the team. That's going to be a difference for them compared to the FA Cup. So people saying that, it's an advantage for us because Liverpool don't have Salah. They got many other players. It's not going to make a difference. It's still going to be a very tough game. So, yeah, those are the points that you've all made. And it's worth noting, in terms of Crystal Palace, when they drew against Man City compared to when we beat them 5-0, Palace had a lot of key players missing. Elise was injured. They've got some players missing through AFCON. They had Nketiah's twin brother, Mateta, playing for them, and he couldn't hit a barn door or whatever the expression is. So, yeah. But still, I'm not taking away. You can only play what's in front of you. A 5-0 win is good, but I'm not going to say we're back after this win. We'll talk about it if we beat Forest and Liverpool.
But what's not to like? We had a weekend where we won against the opposition that was against us, and we got the 3 points, which
we did what we meant to do, and that's good.
And it was much needed. I'm sure one Mikel Arteta would probably be feeling an awful lot better after picking up the 3 points after that game. That's for sure. Now, gentlemen, that is just about all I've had time to write down in a very impromptu sort of, or let's say not impromptu, but a very rushed sort of to get some sort of schedule going on for tonight, because I've had a very long day at work. Is there anything else you want to add?
Just going to say hello to Anthony Herbert in the chat. Says, big up, lads. Good win. 5-0. Let's hope we can beat Forest in the next game. We just talked about that. It'll be tougher than people think. Forest have actually done all right under their new management, and they've got a decent home record, so we can't take them lightly, but we're going to have to win. If we want to talk about the title race being back on, got to beat Forest and we got to beat Liverpool. Then we can start talking about us being back in the race.
Absolutely. Have you got anything else to add, Spencer?
Well, I'll say this much about the title race. The problem is at this point is you're still in the title race, but you don't control your own destiny. So you need things to fall your way more than anything else. You're within look, you beat Liverpool, and you're within 2 points of them. You take care of business against Forest. I mean, obviously City's got a game in hand. The problem is now is control that you potentially had. You have to be perfect from here on out and hope things go your way. And that's the biggest problem. But, the only thing I'll say to that, and I'm probably going to make people mad when I say this, but this team's window of winning a championship is not closing. It's actually only opening because of the youth of Saka, Martinelli. Rice is young. Saliba's young. Gabriel's young. Reyes in his prime as a goalkeeper. Need another striker. There's some things that are needed, absolutely. But, if it doesn't happen this year, the window is not closing, which is the only – you can't say that for Man United. A lot of their players are older. So, that's probably not the positivity people want to hear, but it's just kind of the looking at the landscape of the last 5 years and the progression of the club. So we'll see. But
fair enough. Thank you very much. Well, I think that all being said, I'm going to put our social media banners up. Yeah, very funny. Yeah, okay. We've got comedians in the chat as well. Yes,
listen, I'm just saying, if we go on a bad run of form, I'm not ruling it out. Luke, if you're in favour of terrible in-game management and making substitutions in the 75th minute most of the time, listen, he's your man. He's your man.
I'm trying to end the stream in a positive manner, Bosh. For God's sake, man. Work with me, yeah?
Will you stop?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Before I head out, listen, if you enjoyed what we do here on Gooner Gathering, please like our stream and subscribe to our channel. We have had an incredible amount of views here on the YouTube channel and on the TikTok over the last couple of days. So we thank you very, very much for that. And Gooner Gathering member Fran has just gone live in the last 8 minutes or so. So once we finish up, please go and join her, and she's got a good show planned, I'm sure. So let's pop the old banner up there. Let's throw it to Spencer first. Where can they all find you, and what other channels are you appearing in? What have you got going on?
Well, so tonight I'll be on DWTT, Don't Waste a Trip with Gary, Mr. Tom, who's a Leeds fan, and Tony Turner from Oklahoma. We'll be talking this Arsenal. And sometimes you can see me on Mr. Arsenal podcast with Ryan. And I have my own channel, but I've been so busy I haven't posted anything. And then Saturday I'm going to hang out with the Full Nelson Pod and probably watch the Royal Rumble with those guys. So
Nice.
I'm just having fun, hanging out, enjoying Arsenal, enjoying life, happy to be healthy. Just happy to just enjoy life, guys. You know, don't take every minute for granted.
Who's your pick to win the Rumble this year?
Who's in it? Like, I know who's in it, but I'm like, for me, I'm gonna go Randy Orton. I don't know.
Secret number 30 entrant right next to me.
I'm Randy. I'm gonna
let the poshy hit the floor. Let the poshy.
There have been rumors that me going to America means that I'm going to be an entrant in the Royal Rumble. I can confirm. I've been told by my agent not to comment on these matters at this time. Thank you very much. And the rumors of me appearing in WWE and starting a faction called the Mean Street Poshy are also. I can't comment on that either.
I mean, realistically, probably CM Punk wins the Rumble. Because it sets up I mean, that's what I'm thinking, but we'll see.
Writes itself. Yeah. Social media, please, Bosh.
Depends about Seth Rollins' injury, though.
Yeah, I heard about that, so we'll see what happens.
Hopefully, Rollins and Declan Rice won't join each other on the sidelines.
We need Rice more than we need Seth Rollins.
Yeah. Anyway, did you do your socials, Posh?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Posh Bertie and Instagram at Bertie Wanless. I also run the Gooner Gathering Instagram account too.
Thank you very much. And just to conclude, you can find me at Goonerly Meach. You can find all of us at Gooner Gathering and check Gooner Gathering on TikTok for the very funny clips that we put together. There's a run-in from Spencer's missus as well. So on that note, everybody, we're out of here. Please join Fran over at Goal Art. So enjoy your evening, everybody. And we'll see you next time.